real quick, just let everybody pour in. While we're waiting, Jessica, why don't you tell us about your deal last night, girl? I'm super proud of you.
Okay. So, basically, I just got to use what we've been working on the past few days. They really wanted to do the bathroom for safety reasons, and then we got down to the close. They wanted to know how long this price was good for, and I said, "Well, it's unfortunately it's just good for tonight, and I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen next month or next week. So this is really the best deal you're going to get tonight." And they said, "Well, they gave me the story about how they are paying off their father's car. It'll be paid off in a few months." And then I was able to explain they did the 120 months at 6.99. They liked the 60 months, but it was like still they were kind of like, that's still a little, maybe a little upper echelon of our budget. So explain to them how the payments don't start for 3 months after installation. So really you're looking at June till you have to make your first payment. And then I got it down to like $240 a month, and that was the reason they moved forward.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. It's amazing what happens when we apply training. I love it. Thank you. Good story, Jess. I heard you last night when you were texting me on your way back. I thought that was pretty cool. So wanted you to share that this morning. Good, nice success story. So anyway, so welcome guys. Congratulations to the team here. We've pumped the closing ratio up 5 points over the last 3 days. So good job to you guys. Do you want to keep that trend up? Obviously, if you're not part of that trend, get part of that trend. How do you do it? I want to make sure make sure I can see who's.
Hey, Dustin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and there's somebody else I can hear back on. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I got to leave and I got to re-enter. I've just got the spinning waiting thing showing, so I'm going to have to leave and come back in.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Okay, so anyways, what I want to do today is we're going to pull up and we're going to go scenario a little bit, right? I want to walk through real quick and just make sure our saw is sharpened before we, all right, saw is sharpened before we walk down the alley called lead flow today. So real quick, let's talk about it. Let me see right here. Robert, what's something that you do to get your mind right before you go into appointment? Tell us about the approach. What's something you're doing to get your mind right? Maybe when you wake up all the way, do you get ready to step into your first appointment? How do you get your mindset? How do you focus on your mindset?
Two things. One, I tell myself I know I've got this. And then in a way, I kind of go blank because I want to be receptive to everything. I mean, I've got my plan as far as what I'm going to be asking, but I want to be really receptive and listening to everything that the customer is telling me, either on purpose or on accident. So I've got, pattern. I have the script and everything in my background, but I would really want to do is just listen to everything that they're giving to me at first. Kind of empty all the preconceived notions. My job is momentum moving forward, doing the demo, finding a way in, and listening to everything that they have to say.
Good. Okay. So Adam, what's your threshold question? Take us through the door. How do we get through the door?
Introduce myself, give them my card, and then it's always, wow, this is a beautiful house. How long do you guys own the place? Okay. And then they usually say something, and that's like my first little nugget in there, how long they've had it, and it tells me kind of where I'm going. Then like, this is a great area. What brought you to this area? Kind of stuff like that.
Okay, so what are we trying to find out there? What's one of the major goals there? Not to only just find out how long they've owned the house, but what are we trying to make sure that we find out?
That they're the owner.
And what else?
I don't know. Don't know what you're looking for.
Somebody help him. What are we trying to find right there?
How long they're going to be in the home?
How long they're going to live there?
Yes. So are they there and staying, or basically someplace that they're doing it to transition and move? Right. I want to get that out early so it doesn't punch us at the end, right? So, all right. And then once we get the number of years, right? So we get that number of years and early. Let me see, Charlie, what do we do with those numbers when we have them? What's the purpose of grabbing how many years they've owned the house? Why is that important?
Couple reasons. One, you want to make sure they're not selling, obviously. And then you want to make sure it's their forever house, so they can't give the excuse like, oh, I don't really need something that fancy. I'm just going to be here a couple of years.
Okay. And then what else do we use the number of years that they've owned the house for? Especially when we get later in the presentation.
What do we use the number of years for? I'm not sure. I'm stumped.
Janet, help them. What do we use the number of years we get in the very beginning for?
I mean, I'm going to say, you may not like this, but I'm going to say the quality of the kind of product that we're going to present to them. Is that right?
It's for the ROI.
Boom.
Oh, sorry.
It's for the ROI. And then where else would we use that, Mike?
Energy savings. How much they've already spent.
Okay. And then where else would we use it?
You got me.
Anyone else can help them?
How much has the cost of the project gone up in those many years?
You got that. That's another really good one, right? What else? Where else would we use it?
How long they've been putting this off.
Boom. Okay.
Yep.
So Alex, where else would we use it? Or are you saying in there, right?
Yeah, no, when Terry chimed in, I just said, yep. So, you know, if they've been in the house for 10 years, they've been thinking about it for 10 years. When they're in clothes going, well, we got to think about it. You go, oh, remember, you told me earlier you've been thinking about this for 10 years since you've been in the house. You know, like, and then you just work that in.
Okay, that's another good one. Now, what else do we use it for? Where's another statement we would use that in?
That's the one I had locked in the
Okay, so come on, guys. That's why we do this. Where else would we use that? Remember, everything's strategic and deliberate. We don't just find information out just to find it out. What are we going to do to use it? How about before we transition into the inspection? What do we ask? So they tell us a problem and we say what?
How long has it been like?
What have you done to fix it?
Well, those are standard statements. We're not there yet, but no, that's standard statements. So if I say, hey, yeah, the windows, you know, they let a lot of freaking heat in and it makes it super uncomfortable in the living room. That's one of the reasons you're here. What? Or on the bath side of it, I would say, yeah, you know, the tub is, you know, there might be a little, like it's letting a lot of water off on the edge of it. I think it might be causing a little damage. Then how would we use that time frame we found right when we walked in the house to benefit us?
Is that bringing the problem up forefront? This has been a problem for X amount of years.
Yes, exactly right. So Terry, looks like to me is the heat you said that's been coming in and making you uncomfortable, or basically the water damage that's been happening on the outside of it. Has that been there for the entire 8 years you've owned the house, or when did it start? Then I find out how long they've been dealing. Well, it's been here 4 years. Wow. Well, what happened 4 years ago that you've been dealing with that you haven't been able to get it taken care of yet? Or what have you done to try to take care of it? Right? So you get into there and you're throwing a message at them to know, number one, you're paying attention, right? And 8 years gives you a starting point. So they tell you, no, I've really been thinking about it for 2 years. Okay, what happened 2 years ago to have you really start looking at this project? Do you understand the transition? I want to make sure we understand why that's a big deal.
You're revealing pain.
What else are we revealing with that pain? Why would we bring up the years? Why does the years make any significant difference?
Increased
Commitment
cost of the
made.
project.
Well, increased cost of project, other things too, right? What else does it tell you? If they've been dealing with for 8 years or 4 years, what does that tell you? What story does that tell you?
Commitment to need, like they're ready to install.
Well, pretty close. But what does it tell us? How does it tell us to attack, right? What does it tell us about that problem?
They've hit the point where they can't deal with it anymore.
Boom. Right there. Boom, right there. They've owned this problem and they've known it's been there for 8 years, but they've neglected to take care of it, right? So, and then basically they realized really they needed to get something done 4 years ago. I mean, so guys, I got to ask you a question, right? What stood in the way for me getting this done so far? Well, really, it's been money, not just time, but it's been money. Okay, so are things better now? Yes. Okay, great. So then fast forward to the end and they say, God, Dustin, that's a lot of freaking money, man. I didn't realize it's going to cost this much money. Well, guys, remember, if we'd have gotten back to it 4 years ago or 8 years ago when you first thought about doing it, it'd have been a lot cheaper. Remember I shared with you the cost saving or the basic cost versus value, how much cheaper it was 4 or 8 years ago? Can you see how to tie that nugget in now?
Yep.
That's a big one. And if you don't utilize that way or don't know how to utilize it, we're not taking full advantage of the information we're given, right? We're given it to get it, but we're not doing anything with it, right? So I need to be able to know when I can use that because it sounds a little different at the end. We're like, God, that's too much money. Guys, I understand completely. I mean, it is a lot of money. I get you. But just think about it. If you'd have gotten back to this 4 or 8 years ago, how much less would it have been then? So obviously indecision has cost you a little bit of money compared to what you're expecting to spend on it, right? And you saw how much the project's gone up from 2004 to 2020 or 2010 to 2020, right? So if you look at that thing, that's, of course, 10 years, that's jumped up thousands of dollars, right? And the one thing about it, where everybody's home right now remodeling their house, what do you think is going to happen over the next couple of years? Do you think it's going to go down or up? Right now, materials are harder to get, which makes things supply and demand happen, right? So the supply, basically, if it's overbearing and there's more supply than demand, that means that lowers prices so they can move more product, right? But if the demand is higher than the supply, they raise prices. It's real simple economics, right? So again, you think about it, what position do you think you're going to be in a year from now? Or 2 years from now, or even 6 months from now? It's probably going to go up, guys. Congratulations. We just hit 2021. We're expecting a price increase. And again, so if we'd gotten to it 8 years ago, 6 years ago, it's a big deal. Hey, guys, when you thought about telling me about this project, right? Have you been dealing with this the whole 4 years you've owned the house? Well, really, we noticed it about 2 years ago. Wow, 2 years is a long time, right? What stood in the way from getting it done so far? Been money. Okay, money and other priorities. Okay, so things must be better now, right? So boom, I'm hitting them there. And then yes, Mike, use it for ROI. Yes, a lot of the other places you utilize it, but don't miss that. Because in the very beginning, that's a psychological twist, right? That's almost an anchor you're laying in saying, damn, you know what? We have been dealing with this 8 years. We probably need to get this taken care of, dude. Because Einstein's definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again without a different result, right? Does that make sense? I want to make sure that makes sense because that's a big one. That's one of those mosquitoes that can be an elephant if you figure that out. So we need to take time and go through this. Let's go through it. But I want to make sure it makes sense before we move on. If it doesn't make sense, raise your hand and say, can you explain it again? And then we'll talk about mindset from the customer standpoint, mindset from our standpoint, because this part of it, as little as it is a big, gigantic piece of setting you up for success at the end of it, right? You can slap them with the truth and reality that neglect has cost them the money that has cost them.
The reason it's a mosquito is a lot of times you'll ask questions, right? You'll say, like you just said, oh, how long has this been a problem? And then if you the answer and you just skip over the next question, That's a nugget you need to hold on to. It's not just a question to ask. It's something to hit them with later.
Boom. You're holding on to it, right? You're their therapist. They're telling you the information on how it hurts and where it hurts. Now you're trying to give them a solution, right? If you're not listening to the whole situation and you're just trying to sell a window or sell a bathroom, you're not doing a very good job about listening to what they've been dealing with, right? You're not in their slice of life. Remember, in order to sell John Brown what John Brown buys, I must first see John Brown through John Brown's eyes. So they've been dealing with this 8 years. What has that felt like to deal with this over the last 8 years? Well, it's been freaking miserable, or it's been horrible. Or, we haven't really thought about it until about 2 years ago. And then we know we've got to get something done. Wow. Well, if you've known you had to get it done, what's stood the way for get it done so far? Money, or, we got an estimate, decided that other things happened, our jobs changed, or basically something happened that caused us to sit. So are things better now? Yes. It gives you the idea that you can throw that back on to them and say, we're just getting an idea. Well, guys, earlier I asked you, you said to me that basically you'd put it out because of money and you had some changes in jobs and things, but things are better now, right? So come on, level with me. It's just more money you expect to spend today, right? Yeah. Now let's rewind again, because if you remember, you said you've been thinking about this for the last 8 years and really got serious about 2 years ago. If you'd gotten to it 2 years ago, or even 8 years ago, how much less money do you think it would have been then? Let's think about what happened to everything. How about a gallon of gas? How about basically a loaf of bread? How about basically milk? How about things like that you buy on the commonality? How about unsalted butter? My gosh, right? Makes me want to fall over. So you look at all these things that come into play, nothing ever gets cheaper, right? So let me ask you, it sounds like to me we need to fit something in the price or payment that fits in the budget. It looks like to me you're leaning more towards open account and doing a monthly, right? See, these little nuggets you grab in the front, just that little nugget I just told you right there, you grab in the front, you can take all the way through the presentation with you. Fast forward, good thing you didn't choose this type of window or this type of bathroom, right? Because if you'd have done that 10 years ago or 8 years ago, we'd be talking about doing that same project again, right? And how many times you do the project? Think about that nugget. You find out how many years they've owned the house. You know they're not leaving, and they've already owned it 8 years. And you put them in a slice of life, right? Think about if you'd have taken this product, right? No one expands, contracts, basic extreme heat, dries out, becomes brittle, extreme close, doesn't do well in heat, it changes its shape, and has high glass seal failure and about 3 to 6 year life expectancy. If you'd have done this 8 years, we'd be talking about doing this project again, right? Now, it's kind of a good thing maybe you put it off, because it allows you to realize that there's other better options to take care of it. I know you want to get it done right the first time. You don't want to put something in your house you're going to have to turn around another, basically 6 to 8 years and think about doing the same project again. That's kind of Einstein's definition of insanity. Wouldn't you agree? Or let's talk about ROI, right? If we go on the Windows side of it, just specifically talk about the Windows side, and they're like, I just can't see this project ever paying for itself. There's no way we're going to do it. Okay, well, I kindly disagree. Can I show you what I'm talking about? Yeah, go ahead. I mean, my time's paid for. It doesn't matter to me, but I just want to show you how you're not thinking of everything, right? Let me flip back to this cost versus value real quick. They tell you the average price of doing windows is this to this, right? But they did tell you in San Diego, resale value is about 92 to 84% cost recouped on the money, right? Let's just say we take it at 70, not 84, not 92. Let's just take 70, right? If you look at it, that's about the national average. So if I take 70, which everyone in the United States agrees, 70% is there, we'll just take it at 70%. Now, you told me earlier when I asked you through your utilities, I asked you, when you told me how hot it was getting in here, when we were taking a look in the living room, I asked you if your average utility bill was by $800, $1,200. You surprised me by telling me it was $500, and you said you weren't happy with that, right? And that $500, has it always been $500 or has it gone up? Well, it's gone up. Okay. How much? I don't really even know, right? So say I can at least take 500. So let's just say we take worst case scenario 500. It's probably had some highs and some lows in there, right? So let's take $500 times basically the 8 years you've lived here, which is 96 months, right? So if I take $500, I take 500 times 96 months. That's 8 years, right? That means you've already paid $48,000 to heat and cool your home, right? $48,000, and you've gotten zero return. which means no, absolutely you haven't bought new windows, but you have probably bought the new windows by paying your utility bill to SDG&E. Does that make sense? Yes. Again, if they got solar, you might not be able to use this, but you can use comfort, right? Can you put a dollar figure on comfort? You had a toothache, and that toothache hurt so bad, and you couldn't do anything to fix that toothache. You would do whatever it took to make that tooth to stop hurting, right? Because until it's that big of a need, you don't realize it. And sometimes it's almost on the brink of doing that. So you got to make sure, again, that you're not realizing that situation awareness, right? We pay $500 a month. We get used to doing it. It doesn't hurt, right? But 8 years has just cost you $48,000 to heat and cool your house, right? They tell you SDG&E at that $500 a month is going to raise your bills 28%. That's $140, right? So I take 500 times 28%. That's $140 they're raising your utility bill to do nothing, right? So if I take that by that same 96 months, if you weren't to do anything and basically they raise that on that same time frame, that'd be an additional $13,400 you would pay on top of using the same electric, the same gas, the same usage you do every day, right? $13,000 worth of just extra bills. And that's with you doing nothing else, right? So let's take a look at it. If I take that same $500 and I add 140 with your cost increase, so that takes you $640, right? Do you think utility bills are going to continue to go up, stay the same, or go down? I think we all know that one, right? That's kind of like taxes and, death are the only two for sure things, right? So I take that, and let's say you're going to live in the house another 15 years. That's safe to say. You said you're not going to move out of the house. Well, another 15 years, 180 months. Did you realize in another 180 months, you're going to pay $115,200 to heat and cool your house, right? $115,200 to heat and cool your house. Now, with that said, it's a lot of freaking money, right? So if we take your house and then we go down ROI, you take your windows and we looked at basically the glass package I showed you, right? They said the average cost of savings, about 25 to 40% is what they did based on that survey from HUD, right? So I told you at 25 to 40%, if we took just a bare minimum of a 25% savings, that'd be $28,800 you would take away from SDG&E that we could put towards your project, right? That's it. That's bare minimum. So we look at that, not to mention with your resale value, let's just say the project's 32 grand times basically, let's just say I said 70%. That's $22,400 worth of value added to the house. I mean, let me show you a couple pictures, right? If I showed you the value of this house, show them a before picture, and I showed you the value of this house, how much more money do you feel like that house is worth by the look of it? And show it really good. And they're like, oh my God, dude, that's a major difference, right? So if I told you it's going to add $22,400 of value to your house, would you believe it? Yes. Okay. So I take that by the $24,000 I had in savings. That's $46,400 worth of return on investment. That subtract the 32 that I'd be paying, and that's not even including my cost savings program. That puts $14,400 back in your pocket of the positive. In the positive, right? So if I take 14,000, so if I take basically it's 43, I did right there, minus my basically 32. I take my $43,000 number I had, I would divide that by my $32,000 number. That's about a 13.43% cost recouped, right? That means I'm making 14.3% on my money. In the stock market, if you went out there, try to play and find something that's returning at 14.43%, good luck. There's a couple stocks out there, but right now they're so high buying them, it's almost basically not worth it. So if you look at it, what other thing do you know that you can invest into that's going to continue to appreciate over time, right? Now, let me ask you another thing. When you look at windows or bathrooms, right? Tell me another thing you bought that you've never had to replace again. Now, based on the last 8 years, you've already paid for your windows, a large part of it. So again, why don't we go ahead and make sure we take care of this, right? Do you need it? Do you want it? And from what you can see, at a basically 13.43% cost recouped on your money, can you afford not to do it? There's different scenarios we can take in there, right? But grabbing on that 8 years when you come in, there's so many places you can use it. And the first is when you ask them, they tell you what the problem is with the windows. What's the biggest frustration that's motivating you to do your bathroom? What's the biggest frustration that's motivating you to do your windows today? This, and this. Wow. You've been dealing with that the whole 8 years? No, been dealing with it 3. Okay. Wow. what's happened 3 years ago that really knew that you had to start getting something looked at. And let me ask you, what called me today? What made you throw your hands up where you knew you were done, that you had to get something done? Was this, and this? Wow. Okay. So it sounds like to me, what stood the way from getting done the project so far? It's been time. It's been money. Okay. So things are better now. Yes. Now you got yourself up, right? Now you got yourself in a position where they've opened up and they've shared information that you can use later against them, right? It's not against them. You're using it to protect them against themselves. So real quick, let me see. Roanne, explain what I just said to me. Why do we use that? Why is that even important? Roanne. All right, we'll skip ahead. Give me Janet. What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, what I'm getting from it is showing them, if they don't, creating the pain, that if they don't do it, it's just going to continue to cost them more money, whether it's their energy bills or paying a inflated cost of the windows themselves. And you're just basically showing them through all those numbers that they will save money if they go ahead and do it now. So you're creating pain and urgency at the same time.
Yeah. So we're kind of showing them. Anybody else want to add into that? That's pretty good. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
Dustin, it's Alan. My spin might be a little bit different what you're looking for, but most of the people come into this looking at this as just a pure cost, right?
Yes.
And the problem is we need to change their thinking, is that it's not so much a cost, that it's an investment. You're taking one money out of one bucket of quote unquote investments, particularly if they're putting cash, and they're putting it into another bucket. So they're going to get a return on that investment. And what we're doing is showing them what that benefit is. Just not money going out the window or going in a trash can or being flushed down the toilet. It's actually an investment into their house and quality of life, which is a big thing for me. It's what I always talk about.
Absolutely. I love it. Anything else? That's great, Al. Anything else?
I actually have a question. Where
Yeah.
exactly all that information, like pinpoint, where exactly would you say that information in the presentation?
The presentation, what I just shared with you, not the ROI. The ROI is saved for the close. Save the ROI for the close or right before you do the close after you get the energy savings. So that would be where you do your ROI, right? The other stuff should happen when you're setting down and you're transitioning right before you go to the warm up. You're asking your questions, right? Hey, the office explain what's expected today's visit. Go through your COVID savings program. Hey, got a couple questions for you, right? Man, so let me ask you a question. How long have you been thinking about doing this project? All 8 years. I always start out with how many years they've owned the house. All 8 years. Now we've been thinking about it 3. Okay, really, what happened 3 years ago that made you start thinking about it? Well, they leaked air. They've been leaking air the whole 8 years or the 3. Okay, great. Let me make a note of that so we can take a close look at it, right? Okay, so I'm trying to find those things that are happening there that allow them to know it. So what I'm doing that, Charlie, is in my questionnaire. That's when I'm getting that first part out. When I'm using the 8 years. Then when I walk to the house, when I walk over to their windows, if I couldn't get that information out, then I'm going to use it again. I'm going to ask them to show me what's happening. And I might throw a snide remark, a nice snide remark, but they're like, yeah, I can't open this stupid window. Let me ask you guys, has that been that way the whole 8 years? No, it's been that way for 4. Wow, 4 years you've been dealing with that? I'm sorry. What stood in the way of getting that taken care of? What have you done to try to fix it? How much time, money have you spent? Have you given up trying to fix it? Sounds like to me you've given up on your own, right? You don't even know how to fix it. So we agree, if anything else, this needs to be replaced, right? Does that make sense, Charlie?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you got to get strategic like that, right? Grabbing on that little thing, if you're really understanding it, can be a big deal. And at the end of it, you use the ROI as a tool to help it make so much common sense to move forward that there's no fighting because it just makes absolute sense. So the whole thing is, real quick, if you really get the synopsis of this, right, before I ask you guys your takeaways, the synopsis on this is you're letting them know they've been dealing with this project a long time. And when's enough enough? And the more you use the 8 years in your segment, the more you use your 8 years, the more you use the basically time frame they've been dealing with these problems, and the more you keep bringing it up, the more fed up they get what they've been dealing with this long. You don't deserve to be dealing with these, right? You got too many other things going on. 8 years you've been dealing with this. This is ridiculous, right? You keep bringing that up because what it does when you bring it up is it's reminding them of the full 8 years they've been screwing with that, the full 4 years or even 2 years they've been messing with it. Even 6 months, doesn't matter. You've been dealing with it for 6 full months. Wow, that's got to be frustrating. Or have you dealt with that for the whole 6 months too? Wow, you don't make it a big deal because again, we want to make sure at the end of it that they know they've truly given up trying to fix it on their own, right? How do you make somebody own something? You put them back in a slice of life that makes them understand that they are done dealing with it. Enough is enough. Einstein definition insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. How many times we do it, but unfortunately we get stuck in situational awareness and we don't want anyone to look at it like it's commodity. So remember, when you get down, when you're showing, next thing, Charlie, when you're showing the product lines and you get to vinyl or wood clad or aluminum clad or anything, you know, if you'd have done this 8 years ago, let's talk about what you'd be dealing with today. We'd be right back in that same situation. So put them in a slice of life. If you put this window in 8 years ago, we'd be looking at doing this today, doing the life expectancy is 3 to 6 years, right? Sounds like to me, based on what you need to have accomplished, knowing the property limitations of vinyl plastic, you wouldn't consider putting in that in your house no matter what the cost, right? You would not want to be dealing with me again in 8 years, right? So boom. And then think about that. Hey guys, it took you 8 years to get to here. You really want to roll the dice and do something cheap? Because think about it, you do something cheap, you don't want to see me again in 3 to 4 years, right? If you think I'm expensive now, wait till then. So think about that stuff. All that stuff can be dyed into it. So your whole deal of asking that, by the way, that one question, which I'm really glad we went through that, because if you're not doing that, you're missing a big picture item. Just by finding out that little information we found, we walked in the door, they're there and staying, allows me to know a return on investment is a valid thing to do. Lets me know I need to gauge the years they've been dealing with this problem, and I need to keep bringing that up to make it hurt, bring pain and frustration that they haven't gotten done something sooner. You guys ever made a purchase where you knew you needed to do it, but you kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, then the timing was never right, but when you did it, you're like, damn it, I should have done that so much longer ago. I should have done that so much sooner. That's the process you got to put your customer's brain in. Janet, what's the takeaway today?
That I'm headed to the office so I can practice ROI with somebody, whoever wants to. But no, just using the numbers to put them in a slice of life, you know, really knowing the numbers and knowing exactly how to do it. So I can put them in a slice of life, create pain, create urgency, and show them how it's like Alan said, like it's an investment that they're going to get a return on. It's not just throwing away money.
Yeah. I mean, you look at really windows on your side, Janet, you know, 45 to about 75% of the outside of people's walls in San Diego are glass, right?
Right.
If their house is basically a $1.2 million house and 45 to 70% of the outside of the walls are glass, then why wouldn't the value be what the value is?
Right.
Think about it. It's an inside and an outside remodel, right? It affects them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There's so many things that can go wrong with it that if you make a bad choice, you're going to make your house look like a disaster. You wouldn't put plastic lawn furniture inside your house, would you? Why would you put it inside your windows then? All right, Adam.
That's good. That's a good one.
Adam, what's the takeaway?
Just that I'm not using all the information that I'm getting. Like you're saying, every question counts, and you know you got to bring it back to that and use that as another piece of ammo at the end. I feel like I'm leaving too much on the table when not reusing all those weapons that the customer themselves are giving me. And I should be, you know, before I leave the house, I should make sure I'm emptying my gun and not just, you know, leaving with bullets on my hip.
Yeah, that's that tying the knot thing. Remember tying the knot? We talked about tying the knot a while back. That's tying the knot. You're tying the knot to the years, and you're breaking that thing. So that way, again, you're holding them to that 8 years they've done nothing. Indecision, right? General Colin Powell's told you indecision. has cost America more money than any bad decision they've ever made, right? Let's think about that. Good stuff. Alan, what's the takeaway today?
Not only knowing the process that I've got to go through, but understanding the why and making sure that I use all these great nuggets of information I've asked, right? Going through the process and being able to use that to help them get to the resolution, which is to buy and buy right there.
There we go. Alex.
Hey there. Yeah, one word, strategy. Not just asking questions to ask questions. I'm not just talking to talk. There's got to be a purpose behind it. There's got to be reasons why I'm asking those questions. Reasons why I'm going to give them this information right here, and it's all got to lead me to an easier close once we get to that point. Strategy.
Yeah, it makes everything logical. Charlie, takeaway today.
Well, first of all, I like the fact that you haven't talked about this in a long time. So it's great you're kind of re-exploring all the pieces. There's so many pieces to this puzzle. So it's great that we're going over this because it's an angle, again, we haven't talked about in a long time about, the money side of it, the savings, whatever. We're always talking about window or we're always comparing products. So that, and then hitting them, like you said, with that little nugget, when you find out the years, it's like literally bang, that's going to be one of your punches you're going to jab them with, especially when you get in the closing, when they say, oh, about pricing or, oh, it's too much, that's bam, that's when you hit them with the jab. Oh, you did tell me that it's been this long. And the other thing is just the little plastic furniture, the lawn furniture thing. I love that. I forgot about that. That's great.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, remember, guys, this is next level stuff. This isn't basic on the surface. This is next level stuff we're teaching you. So a lot of people don't realize that a lot of people ask questions with intent to reply, but not intent to listen and understand. Listen and understand that you can use this stuff to help you be more effective. Mike.
Takeaway is, a lot of what everybody else said, and just taking the information instead of, we get the number of years are in the house, and at least I'll speak for myself, and then I don't use it. I put it in my pocket. I have it, and I don't use it to show them how they're not necessarily buying, they're investing and saving.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Cynthia.
Yeah, I think just slowing down and putting them into slice of life, really getting specific about that. I find sometimes when customers are trying to rush me to get through it, especially if it's a small job, like, okay, here it is, how much is the price? Just still stopping, and especially if it's a big job, really, but, taking the time to really break it down, and also to look at, if they got an estimate a couple of years ago, how much has it gone up since then? How much is it going to go up if they don't, move now? And how, yeah. So I think just taking the time to slow them down and really take them through this process of looking at exactly what it's going to do for them.
Absolutely. Love it. Jessica.
I love the plastic lawn furniture. I can't wait to use that with the plastic showers. That's great. Just really explaining it all says it in our cost versus value. The bathroom is one of the top, the top things. And then I always reference, and I'm like, I tell people I sold real estate for a long time, and people do not like to buy homes with gross bathrooms. It's true. It kind of reflects on the rest of the house. So anyway, thank you.
Well, Michelle.
Well, the revelation that a tool that I have actually has multiple uses, and kind of like what Cynthia said, just don't let them rush me through, and really look at the value of the answer that I'm getting, not just repeating a word track.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's a good meeting then. Basically, Roanne, take away.
Hey guys, hey, sorry about earlier. I was on the line with the customer. Takeaways, I definitely
It's no
need
problem.
to lock down that question. You know, let me ask you what stood in the way of you doing the project in the past. It sounds to me things are better, right? And if it comes down to the money, taking that and like running with it.
Yeah, so just again, use that years to make a big difference. Robbie.
Right.
3 prices. We got the 1-year retail price, we got the coupon price, we got the COVID price. Part of that function is to roll out the COVID price. Part of it is to establish a pattern that the longer you wait, the more you will pay. That can be true about the cost of our project. It's going to be true about the cost of maintaining their home, whatever. So that master principle can guide our brain while we're asking all these questions. How do we take everything that they're saying and organize it in this puzzle so that they realize the longer they wait, the more this costs money? That generates the sense of urgency that we need to close, period, let alone close in one visit. So taking that mantra from the price rollout and applying it to everything, ROI on the project, how long they've delayed it, all that stuff, all that comes together to subliminally drive them to sign the deal now.
Absolutely. I love it. Scott, take away today, my man.
Yeah, you're just really, really planting that anchor that you're already spending money on this project, whether it's moving towards a positive solution or you're just delaying the inevitable. It's why not start enjoying the benefits of it now and reap the financial rewards of keeping that money in your pocket, because you are paying for it, whether you realize it or not. Do you want to pay more now? Do you want to pay less now or more in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Terry, take away.
Yeah, I loved all the responses. Alan kind of hit it when he was saying, we know this, that people are just thinking about it as a commodity. What's the cost? Not thinking about the value and what it brings to their life. Strategic strategy is what I'm taking away right there. That's what you call next level stuff. Love it.
Yeah. All right, cool, guys. Well, hopefully you got something about it. By the way, I posted the finance video up on the YouTube channel. So that's on there ready for you guys to go. I think I'm going to post this one too, because you might have to listen to it once or twice to really get the full benefit of it. But there is some solid gold nuggets in here, guys. Some solid gold nuggets that if you take these away and you apply them, do the 8 years, how long has that been doing? All 8 years? Yes. And you really understand the psychology about the box and the slice of life you put them in. And you realize in order to sell John Brown what John Brown buys, or see John Brown through John Brown's eyes, means that it's not just a cliche or thing. You're putting them back into a time where they first started dealing with this, and they start taking themselves down that memory bank. Every time you say that, it puts them back in that memory bank. You want to put them in that memory bank so they're sick and tired of dealing with it. Always on the windows, I tell you, hey, is it easier to take the screen out on the inside or the outside when you're doing your outside inspection? If you're not doing an outside inspection, shame on you. Get your butt freaking outside and do it. Even on a bathroom, walk outside and see if there's any destruction or anything like that happen on the outside of it, right? Make sure you don't have a post-tension slab. Look at those things you can sit there and talk about. They're going to help you get into it. So again, find your why. Ask the questions that you're taught during process, right? First thing you're asked when you walk through the door, your threshold question, beautiful house, how long have you owned it for? That one little piece of information we talked about today, right? We just got through the door. Tomorrow, we're going to keep going through the door, keep finding these nuggets. But right now, we took that first nugget. On Monday, we're going to do that. We walk through that door. And again, we're going to make sure that we grab the hold of that first nugget, right? We found out they're not moving, found out how long they've owned that. And we just showed you how to use how long they've owned the house in multiple places, 4 to 5 different places in that presentation to help you get what you deserve. That's it, guys. We'll see you on the board. Have a fantastic weekend. Let's keep the trajectory. And who they think will be
Nobody.
Nobody, darn it.
Not a freaking
Nobody.
Nobody.